Why am I here? Do you think I invited you to get revenge for stealing my life and taking my kid away from me? Do you think I want to make you pay? I don't know, do you?
Yes! Yes, she does!
Blake Lively has been promoting a victim storyline, but the facts reveal a completely different reality because while Justin Baldoni remained quiet as his public image was damaged, insiders are now stepping forward and exposing startling evidence that challenges Blake's version of events on set. And it appears that someone else had been controlling the situation from behind the scenes the entire time as the real truth is finally beginning to surface.
Do not trust you. You have lied too much. You have fudged truths. You are trying to hide so much information that you are like your character in a simple favor, and I can't unsee it.
Did you know that for months Justin Baldoni remained entirely quiet while his reputation was being torn apart publicly? And the real story is far more alarming than most people realize because what began as a promising press tour for It Ends With Us quickly descended into one of Hollywood's most widely discussed disputes of the year, as fans were the first to sense something unusual when Blake Lively and Justin suddenly stopped appearing together at promotional events, a major warning sign for any big-budget movie campaign. And soon entertainment outlets were overwhelmed with anonymous sources and behind-the-scenes accounts portraying Justin as controlling, uncooperative, and incredibly hard to work with as headlines like on-set conflict, director's ego ruins press, and Blake's issues with toxic co-star started appearing everywhere. But despite the chaos, Justin remained silent. Not a single tweet, interview, or public remark. And the reason was simple: he legally couldn't say anything because according to an entertainment lawyer who reviewed the contracts, Baldoni was under one of the most restrictive non-disclosure agreements the attorney had seen in over 15 years of industry experience, a clause that effectively silenced him completely while Blake had no such restrictions, allowing her to shape public perception without resistance. And behind the curtain, Blake Lively was executing a calculated and highly effective strategy in public image management as private text exchanges between crew members obtained exclusively for this report revealed growing confusion about the unfolding story, with one assistant director messaging a colleague saying, "Why is everyone blaming Justin? That's literally the opposite of what happened," while another replied, "This is insane. We were all there and this isn't how it went at all." And the imbalance of power was impossible to overlook because Blake's elite status, strong studio relationships, and inner circle of high-profile celebrity friends gave her massive influence, whereas Justin, though successful from Jane the Virgin, didn't have the same public leverage to defend himself. And as one former studio executive explained, when someone like Blake turns the public narrative against you, your options become extremely limited. Especially when she brings heavyweight allies into the conversation, and Blake's inner circle didn't stay neutral as stars like Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds, and others subtly reinforced Blake's version through perfectly timed online engagement, supportive public comments, and coordinated appearances that sent a powerful message to millions of fans even if they weren't aware of the full truth. And as one PR strategist described it, it was a textbook execution of celebrity power being used to control a narrative. And by the time Justin was finally able to speak, his words were composed, respectful, and professional, as he didn't accuse anyone but simply thanked supporters and reaffirmed his commitment to the film. But at that point it was already too late because his long silence had already been used against him and reframed as an admission of guilt. And as one crisis manager noted, it was a brilliant PR strategy because by the time he had the legal freedom to talk, the public story was so firmly established that anything he said looked like an attempt to do damage control.
For too much, in my opinion. She wants all celebrity correspondence to be private. It's called AEO, which is attorney's eyes only. All sort of private mentions from celebrities, etc., should be only for the attorneys. It's like, girl, no. You published his text messages. Can we just hold on, Blake? You published his text messages in a complaint that wasn't even a lawsuit, and then gave it to the New York Times before you filed it officially. You're a despicable and a massive hypocrite. And so now you're complaining about privacy? Oh, this is such an important private matter. You were on Saturday Night Live letting your husband make a mockery of your whole thing. Oh, is there something that's going on? Yeah, there's something going on. And you shouldn't have been there cracking jokes about it. I'm sure they could have seen you at the other studio and you could have enjoyed the night without being on television. But you guys couldn't help yourself. So you want to have all the abilities to go online, defend yourself, publicly mock, do whatever you want. But when you want it to be private, you should just get to decide that it's not.
The same woman who skillfully engineered Justin Baldoni's public downfall has also been performing another meticulously constructed act that's been playing out for years, because according to several crew members from It Ends With Us, the version of Blake Lively that the public sees and the one behind the scenes are two completely different personas, and once the cameras stopped rolling, the shift in her demeanor shocked many, as during interviews and public appearances Blake radiated charm by telling humorous stories about her children, projecting down-to-earth mom vibes and making fans feel like she could be their closest friend. But in private, crew members claim she was far from warm or friendly, with one production coordinator who asked to remain unnamed saying there were clearly two Blake Lively's and describing it as watching someone hit a switch because the moment press walked away her entire energy changed. She stopped smiling and crew were suddenly instructed not to make eye contact, especially makeup artists who were reportedly treated with unusual harshness, as one described being humiliated in front of the entire team over a barely noticeable smudge before being kicked off set for allegedly disrespecting her face, while another was reportedly fired on the spot simply for making direct eye contact during a routine touch-up. And even basic interactions became strained, as instead of speaking directly to crew nearby, Blake would send messages through her assistants, which created a cold and belittling environment that one crew member said made them feel less than human. And her diva-like conduct didn't end there, because several sources confirmed she often arrived 2 to 3 hours late to set, which caused filming delays and cost the studio thousands in overtime pay. And once she finally appeared, she would immediately begin making demands, such as insisting on reviewing the script every morning, according to a writer's assistant who said lines that had been finalized for weeks were suddenly rewritten because they no longer felt real enough to her. But perhaps the most telling detail was Blake's obsession with how she appeared on camera. As a production assistant revealed, she would check footage several times a day and demand retakes if she didn't appear flawless in every shot, no matter the time limits or budget restrictions. And when Justin Baldoni eventually tried to step in and speak up for the overworked crew, some of whom were enduring grueling 16-hour shifts, Blake's reaction was immediate and punishing, as producers received phone calls from her team within hours and Justin was swiftly told to back off and concentrate only on his acting, a moment that would soon flip the entire story and come at a serious cost to his career.
She also alleged sexual harassment.
Yes, she alleged sexual harassment against Baldoni, and he said, look, here are all the text messages. Here is the whole arc of our relationship. There's no sexual harassment here. His attorney, Brian Friedman, has been feeding the media snippets, sort of the audio from
a text here, a voice note there.
That's right. And he's releasing things. I talked about this with Charlie a couple days ago. He's releasing things that aren't entirely flattering to him. They are both. They're just like, here's everything.
Which
He's
makes it seem more honest. I think that has kind of helped him, because people see like the voice note that was 6.5 minutes long, where at the end he's like, oh, I know you've got a baby on your boob right now.
Yes. It's
cringy and creepy and weird. Is it sexual harassment? A lot of people don't think it is. It's just, he's an awkward, weird dude. But by not trying to paint himself as this huge, great, perfect hero, it makes her look worse.
I completely agree. He doesn't look like he's cherry picking. He looks like, here's all the blemishes. I'm a little weird. I'm a little cringy. I left a long voice note to a married woman. They said I wanted all of her. I said she's got a kid on her boob. Yeah, I'm weird, but I'm not a sexual harasser.
He wasn't saying like he wanted to hook up with her. He wasn't calling her like weird derogatory names or anything. He was just...
While the crew was told to stay in their lane, what unfolded behind the scenes during the film's most private moments painted a completely different picture. Multiple insiders revealed that Blake Lively wasn't just performing in those romantic scenes with Justin Baldoni. She was controlling every single detail. And in what sources are calling the most shocking revelation, she later claimed those same scenes made her uncomfortable. When it was time to film the movie's most intimate moments, Blake made a bold, unheard-of move by rejecting the use of the certified intimacy coordinator hired for the production. According to a camera operator present on several sets, she insisted she knew precisely how those moments should appear and refused to let anyone else dictate how her body would be portrayed. Script supervisor notes support this, showing Blake personally requested increased physical contact in multiple major scenes, often exceeding what the original script outlined. In one standout instance, she advocated for a more revealing bedroom sequence, added extra dialogue, and extended the physical interaction by nearly a full minute. Her control didn't end at the script. Right before filming those sensitive scenes, she emailed producers requesting the removal of specific crew members. Namely, 3 technicians known to be close to Justin, including his trusted camera operator, leaving him surrounded only by individuals aligned with Blake during their most vulnerable on-screen moments. Witnesses described actions from Blake that contradicted her later remarks. A lighting tech recalled her calling cut herself if Justin wasn't positioned exactly as she wanted, even telling him where to place his hands and how long to kiss her. She was effectively directing the scenes. After each take, she demanded immediate playback, and if her appearance didn't meet her standards from a particular camera angle, she'd order reshoots, sometimes redoing entire scenes 15 to 20 times until everything looked flawless. An assistant director confirmed they'd redo full sequences just because of one unflattering frame. But the most disturbing part, according to crew members, was that while Blake was taking full creative control over these moments, she was also quietly constructing a different version of events. Multiple insiders confirmed she was simultaneously sending carefully worded messages to producers expressing discomfort about the same scenes she was designing. As one production coordinator put it, she was creating a paper trail. It became clear she was crafting a protective narrative in real time, one that could later be used to shift responsibility and preserve her public image.
I imagine the judge is going to start getting frustrated because no one's agreeing to any side of anything. They just refuse to meet in the middle. And so there's a few parts in this document that I think are really important to talk about, including, yes, calling out content creators, but trying to, there's a lot of legal speak, etc., leaving aside the callous disregard and disrespect for a woman advocating for the most basic workplace protections against SH. Debatable, Blake. The Wayfarer Party's position that a woman who speaks up against SH has somehow waived any and all privacy interests shows the futility of future conferral. Well, no, it doesn't. It's incredibly important that all this go up because you published a lot of this publicly. This is beyond just the complaint. You published it to the New York Times and you defamed him and disparaged him, and he disagrees with you. I don't agree that all SH claims moving forward should be put in a silent, quiet chamber where we must believe the woman. Are you nuts? Are you nuts? You made this a public battle, and now it is a public battle, and Justin has every right to fight this publicly to clear his name, because you have a lot of things you refuse to take accountability for. Talking about how the edit has nothing to do with this. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. A lot of this has a lot to do with everything. So anyway, she's trying to claim that because they've spoken out or intend to speak out against Wayfarer, they forfeit their privacy rights. You kind of did. The women who raised SH claims waive any privacy rights, no legal support, and it's directly contrary to sites cated. So they're trying to say, like, we are allowed to have confidentiality because this is an SH claim, and therefore it's so important that it must be secret. We must control and protect everyone. And then they're trying to say, look, all shield public certain documents, of course. And she always tries to bold like the obvious. No one's disputing that there's certain obvious legal things that would be protected on both sides, but she just wants it to go even further, and it's maddening. So then she goes into here. She tries to claim here that discovery will have confidential documents or information of the public disclosure of which will cause harm to the producing person and our third party to whom duty of confidentiality is owed, and to protect against injury caused by dissemination of confidential documents information. The argument of who gets to decide what's confidential is very interesting because a lot of this stuff, other cast members, Taylor Swift, have all been sort of inserted on this, thanks to you, Blake. And now it's gone against Justin, which Justin disputes and says that's not true. So when you get this information, or if your co-stars end up not supporting you, that all is private. And then what? We don't get to know that? No, I disagree. We deserve to have this. And honestly, I think all of this show.
What unfolded during filming was just the opening act. Blake Lively's true maneuvering took place behind closed doors in the post-production suite, where the final cut that audiences eventually watched looked drastically different from what was originally filmed, and according to insiders, this drastic overhaul was orchestrated by Blake with a level of dominance that even veteran industry professionals found staggering. Unlike most actors who finish their duties once shooting wraps, Blake was just getting started, as her contract, which sources say included unprecedented stipulations, granted her the right to approve every single shot she appeared in before the director could even begin assembling his version. One senior post-production supervisor with over 20 years of experience remarked they had never encountered an actor wielding this kind of authority, and it wasn't just about appearances either. Editors revealed she spent extensive time combing through footage and submitting detailed notes, even requesting full scene edits whenever Justin Baldoni's performance seemed too emotionally compelling, with directives like reduce his reaction time by 1.5 seconds or use the take where I appear more emotionally relatable. The control extended well beyond editing. after early test screenings showed stronger audience response to Justin's character than anticipated. Blake reportedly launched a last-minute campaign to reframe the focus, demanding edits that amplified her reaction. Shots and eliminated some of Justin's most powerful moments, and even during color grading. Meant to define the film's overall visual tone, she allegedly issued specific instructions to enhance her skin tone's warmth and glow while subtly muting Justin's in shared frames. One colorist admitted they were told to desaturate his coloring slightly so she would stand out more prominently, and her reach didn't stop at the film itself, despite Justin being billed as co-lead. Marketing materials consistently minimized his presence, with a marketing coordinator revealing they had to reshoot promotional images multiple times because Blake's team complained Justin appeared too noticeable and that her face had to occupy at least 65% of every joint photo. When Justin questioned these revisions, producers quietly pointed to the airtight clause in her contract. Her sign-off overruled even the director's authority, confirmed one executive, and nothing could be done because her legal team had secured these rights from the start, but Blake's grip extended far past creative decisions. As whispers of on-set friction began surfacing, crew members who tried defending Justin were quickly silenced, with social media posts disappearing within hours and 2 production assistants who posted first-hand comments receiving cease and desist notices within 2 days, one of whom had tweeted, "I watched her choreograph those intimate scenes herself, then flip the script and act like the victim," a post that was soon wiped from the internet. Even more troubling was the fate of Miranda, a makeup assistant who anonymously detailed Blake's backstage conduct to a lesser-known blog, only for her interview to vanish hours later after the blog's editor received what they described as the most intimidating legal warning of their career from attorneys representing unnamed high-profile clients. The extent of Blake's behind-the-scenes leverage became undeniable when a crew member texted that someone named Josh merely mentioned her tardiness in a casual interview and suddenly couldn't land auditions for indie projects, while another simply messaged, "It's career suicide to cross her." Entertainment journalist Sophia Chun tried investigating but received a preemptive call from one of Hollywood's top litigation firms before publishing anything, warning that continuing would have ramifications that stretched well beyond journalism, saying they somehow had access to information she hadn't shared with anyone. Possibly the most disturbing case involved David Mercer, a lighting technician who described the toxic atmosphere on a podcast and was pulled from a major studio gig 2 days later, with creative differences cited as the official reason, though sources claimed the real motive was retaliation, as that film's executive producer was closely tied to Blake's agent. Blake never needed to issue direct threats. Her network handled everything, and according to one former crew member, a single call from her team to the right contact could blacklist someone permanently. In this industry, everyone knows the game, and while the truth about it ends with us nearly came to light more than once, Blake's powerful connections, aggressive legal firepower, and carefully curated documentation ensured every opposing voice was swiftly shut down. Behind the curtain, she wasn't just the face of the film. She engineered its entire narrative.
Content creators, here we go, who frequently parrot the Wayfarer party's line, at least one of whom just happens to be a client of Wayfarer's counsel, Brian Friedman, have asked similar misleading accusations. Compare Opposition 1 with Perez Hilton. Blake Lively asked judge for stronger protective order to keep Justin Baldoni suit details private after receiving violent messages. They go there. They are really trying to keep the evidence out of the public eye, it would seem. Yeah, he's right. I don't like Perez Hilton. I'll never like Perez Hilton based on what he did to Britney and so many others. I don't trust him. Never been a fan. But that's besides the point. He's right there. He's absolutely right there. They are trying to keep some evidence out of the public eye. Candace Owens also gets in there. Last night we all slept, blah, 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 protective order. The guilty as sin couple is asking a judge to protect from the public some confidential documents and names gathered in the discovery process. Predictably, media outlets then picked up the same narrative. Blah, 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 see more. I don't know, the Mirror. Her lawyer urged that some details of the case should be restricted to attorney's eyes only in order to limit the amount of shock headlines being generated by the case. All emphasis added. The travel, exactly, they're making it seem more emphasis. The travels of the mischaracterization embraced by the opposition through this manufactured echo chamber by itself provides ample justification for a protective order that establishes adequate protections for third-party privacy. You've done nothing. All of this information that you just put out there, somehow Perez Hilton, who I don't believe for a second they're working with, did you read drone complaints? They literally bashed Perez Hilton in the text messages. I think it was Melissa or somebody like, don't worry about Perez. He's worthless. He means nothing. His own team literally said Perez Hilton is worthless. Just because he's repped me, the thinnest like conspiracy theory thread that you've connected everything. And now Candace Owens, who's not a client of Brian, says something related because it's all from the legal responses that we are deducing with our own minds, Blake. Is anyone else seeing the gaslighting from Blake and Ryan, constantly trying to just wave things that we've seen with our own minds and pretend like they didn't happen? It's truly maddening. But then again, because of those two articles, and no offense, I don't watch either Candace or Perez. I had a similar response as well. But because someone else did, because we read the documents and came away with the same takeaway, all things must be private? I mean, make that make sense. Make that make sense. It doesn't. It doesn't make any damn sense. It never will. These two will not agree on anything, honestly. But at this point, I would agree with Justin's team. Yeah, we got to start seeing this because I don't trust you, Blake. I do not trust you. You have lied too much. You have fudged truths. You are trying to hide so much information that you are like your character in a simple favor, and I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it.
That powerful circle surrounding Blake Lively didn't emerge by chance. It was carefully constructed layer by Hollywood's most dominant insiders, and behind every crew member quietly blacklisted or every news article that inexplicably vanishes, there's someone holding the pen approving that silence because studio heads aren't passive observers. They're the engineers of the system itself. And with billions in potential profits on the line, their priorities are crystal clear. Protect the asset at all costs. To these executives, Blake Lively isn't merely an actress, she's a commercial brand, a merchandising powerhouse, and a dependable magnet for box office revenue, with one former Warner Brothers executive stating bluntly that stars like her are mobile cash machines since her image doesn't just push movie tickets, it drives perfume sales, fashion partnerships, and home decor endorsements, creating an entire marketing engine powered by her persona, and when stakes reach that scale, shielding the illusion becomes a top priority. Former Lionsgate insiders confirmed that upper management knew all about Blake's on-set conduct but chose deliberately not to step in, abiding by an unspoken mandate to give her whatever she wanted, with one former VP openly admitting that they determined replacing her would cost more financially than managing the consequences of any complaint, and this wasn't just speculation. It was supported by solid metrics showing that Blake's last 3 projects generated over $85 million in merchandising profit alone, excluding streaming deals and theatrical revenue. So when one actor creates that kind of secondary income, studios don't merely support her, they build full-blown infrastructures to maintain her image, according to a studio financial analyst. This machinery is massive, deeply rooted, and includes elite legal teams, public relations experts, brand consultants, and senior executives all coordinating to suppress anything that could harm her public persona, with one former publicist who briefly worked with her describing the operation as reputation laundering at an industrial scale where damaging reports were flagged, erased, or buried, often before they gained any momentum. But the most alarming aspect is how this apparatus handles anyone who tries to expose the truth, such as a production coordinator from a 2019 film who claimed she was offered $175,000 plus a 3-picture assistant deal if she signed an enhanced NDA, stating that they never disputed her claims. They simply made it financially impossible for her to speak out, and this wasn't an isolated incident. Whenever complaints about Blake's conduct reached the higher-ups, their consistent response was risk management over responsibility, with one former HR executive at Amazon Studios calling it cold business math. One problematic star weighed against hundreds of millions in earnings. The outcome was automatic, and that choice turns regular crew into sacrificial assets. Careers are ruined quietly, reputations are discredited, and whistleblowers are labeled bitter or incompetent, all to preserve the fantasy of a flawless celebrity image. Through that lens, Justin Baldoni was never the antagonist. He was a professional navigating an ecosystem that was never meant to shield him. What transpired during the production of It Ends With Us wasn't just one actress's behavior. It was a rare look at how the entertainment industry operates when it's determined to safeguard one of its golden icons, and this brings us to the unsettling core of modern celebrity culture. The content we consume is often more fabricated than factual, where sculpted personas substitute for authenticity, narratives are micromanaged by PR teams, silence is enforced through legal channels, and what the public receives is a curated version of reality optimized for profit and illusion. But fans aren't powerless, because we influence what gains attention, what's overlooked, and which behaviors society tolerates, and the shift starts when we ask sharper questions like, who benefits from these stories, who's being muted, and whose perspective are we still not hearing? So the next time a celebrity controversy makes headlines, consider what version of the truth is being sold, and whose voice never made it to the screen.